Hello everybody. I hope that you can hear us loud and clear and see us brightly as well. My name is Adam Sidovátka. I represent Unicorn Product Hub, and my colleague here at today's open session is Lukáš Sikoda, who is our boss, team leader of the development team of the feature and the topic we want to present you with today. The topic of today's open session is the new Plus4U layout. We are responsible for UDockit, the first application which has integrated this new layout. And we want to present you with the results that we have, which are already in production. That will be the first part, and the second part would be, let's say, detailed and deep view into the source code and basically step-by-step how to upgrade your application to the new layout as well. So let's start with sharing of the screen. I hope that everything is fine. And that you can see my screen. So as I said, two parts of the open session. The first one, which I will present, I call it the easy part, which is suitable basically for everybody. It's about the introduction to the layout, to the concepts and the live example. And then there will be a bit harder, but I think that's still easy part, which will be presented by Lukáš, and that will really be about detailed source code examples and description how to upgrade your components and the whole application, both on the human interface and the server side, to the new Plus4U layout. The open session shouldn't take more than 45 minutes. After these two parts, we will go to Q&A by the end of the session. So, what is the goal of the new layout, which you can already see in the production version of UDockit? It is standardization and unification of human interface and its user experience across all of our applications, especially those which are connected to EU territory, either to business or to my territory, including the territories itself, and also navigation. It is important to say that the version which is now used in UDockit is, let's say, the first one, and it is still in progress regarding the features which are about to come. Everything what you see here, the top, this bar, the controls or the components and colors, are based on UU graphic design system, which is a methodology and tools for designing consistent user interfaces in our framework. I think that this concept of GDS was already presented by Bobesh at some other event, and for sure there will be more open sessions and particular events to come, which will go in much bigger detail to graphic design system concepts. Today we will keep it just on the basic level because the main topic is just the layout, which is only one of the parts of the GDS. So, as you have probably mentioned, UDockit layout has changed. We already received some requests, usually also a positive feedback. The main thing which has changed is basically the presentation of application versus presentation of the territory, of the organizational unit, of the context in which you are seeing the document here. So instead of presenting Dockit as the main visual part of the document, we are now showing the logo and the name of the company, of the organization where this document belongs to. Across all territories, we now have various and different and differentiated color schemes, visual identifications. So you can see at first sight where you are right now. So the open session we have is stored in Unicorn University territory, and you can see its logo and the name. While, for example, a phase about the Docket application is stored in Unicorn Product Hubs, so the logo and the bar has changed as well. And my territory has a different color scheme and the visual identification as well. The visual identification is a pretty complex concept. All of the documentation is linked in this open session on the second sheet of the outline in the part below. So if you want to have more detailed information about these concepts, feel free to open these links and study it. As I said, we will now just go briefly through the main concepts. What is important to say is that visual identification can be used basically in any organizational unit in your clubs of my territory, and at least every single territory which we have in production has now configured visual identification. Currently, the visual identification for my territories is unified, but I'm pretty sure that in the future there will be a possibility to select visual identification which you would like the most. And for the territories, all of the Unicorn companies already have visual identification prepared by VicDesign. Right now, it is important to say that it's the initial version. We know that there may be some things which someone may not like, and we are now prepared to receive your feedback. And the UX team, managed by Bobesh and Adam Bičiště and Michal Husák, and VicDesign are prepared to update and improve the visual identifications for your territories if you're not satisfied with some details. Also, in the future, it is possible to set up specific visual identification, for example, to specific product units. So if, for example, ChargeUp or Certegy would like to have its own branding within the territory, within Docket, and basically any application connected to the territory and their organizational units, it would be possible as well. There is no obstacle why not to have Certegy or ChargeUp logo right here. It's possible. Also, I would like to mention that Unicorn graphic design system is, let's say, the methodology, but its implementation, its realization is basically done through the new generation of U5 library. And the whole layout which we are presenting then belongs to Plus4U5 Generation 2 libraries. So these are the basic libraries and elements which create this layout as a whole. Also, speaking of visual identification, the visual identification itself is just a concept, but we always need some place where the configuration is stored, and that's within the EU territory, either the business territory or my territory. And finally, and very briefly, some functionality which makes this whole thing possible, including the information about the artifact name and its location, and loading of the visual identification is done through two commands from the application, which are fulfilling the interface of UApp Workspace. Lukáš will be speaking about this in detail later. I just need to say that there are two general commands with predefined interface for loading of UApp Workspace and then any OBC artifact. So the U observer and U app workspace is only predefining the interface, but then there must be specific implementation in every U application. Regarding the main components and libraries that we use, which is generation 5 of U5 and generation 2 of Plus4U5. Not only they are based on a EU graphic design system, but also their elements, their main visual components and their styling is semantic. That means that when you're developing some of your components, you don't need to bother whether you would say, okay, now I want to have a button with this outline and make it blue and have a shadow with level 3 and something like that, because we have switched to semantic meaning, semantic properties for styling. So instead of that particular small styles, you would just say that you want to have something important, and it would automatically mean how the button would look like. And also it will take care of inheriting of all other styles from the parent components or contexts. Also, if we make sure that all of our applications, all of our libraries and components will be based on this unicorn graphic design system with U5 and Plus4U5, then we can really have unified ecosystem of applications. And if there would be some change, for example, in some color or border radius or shadows or basically any part of the human interface, the only one place where this will be changed will be just within the U5 GDS part, and then it will take effect everywhere across the system. So it's another dimension of, let's say, our dynamic approach to libraries and the whole architecture of the human interface. This version of human interface in UDockit was completely rewritten because UDockit is one of the older applications. It used old contexts from previous generations of these libraries, and also it used deprecated mixins and basically outdated parents. So what we did is that we threw everything that we had basically to trash, and we have rewritten the human interface of UDockit from the scratch. And although we have already done that and released UDockit to production, we are still using major versions 0 of these core libraries. But I am happy to inform you that there is a specific milestone set, and that's the 1st of September this year, where the major version 1 of both U5 and Plus4U5 new generations will come to production. And not only it will be deployed and available on CDN and NPM repositories, also all of the necessary concepts and basic guidelines will be prepared for you as well. So for us, because we were the first application, of course, integration of the whole new layout took quite a while, but we were the first one. There were a lot of, initial obstacles, and the documentation was incomplete. But as you can see, even without that and with the support of U5 team and Onya Čapek, we were able to do it. But no one wants you to contact U5 team for every of our application and ask them how to solve something and how to integrate something. And that's the reason why the first major versions of these libraries will come together with the guidelines and how-tos. By the end of this initial part, I will also mention a few things which came as feedback, and also mention future plans. So I hope that I will basically answer some of your questions in advance, and by the end of the open session, I think we will have less of these questions. So we already received quite a few requests regarding the new layout, so I will go just briefly through them. Some of you have already asked, man, I was used to have a list of sheets on the left side in the left menu, and now the sheets are in the top menu. Well, right now they are, but there is already a concept for this new layout, which takes into account that some applications would be more useful with the left menu with the sheets. For example, we know that the book in UBookit will still be kept with the pages on the left side. And at the same time, once this will be a general feature everywhere, we will enable you to switch the menu from top to the left or otherwise and save the view, so you would be able to customize this just the way you like it. Right now, we only have the top one, but as I said, in the near future, there would be a possibility to move it to the left as well. Also, some of you asked that since we don't have the left menu right now, that the pages in UDockit are like too broad, the width is too big, and that on 4K monitors it is hard to read some text. Again, we know about this. One thing is that once there will be a possibility for the left menu, the width of the page will and its content will become smaller. And second thing is that we will probably enable another option which will allow you to say that you don't want the width to the full width, but you want it at some recommended limited value. So the option, I think, will be coming as well. Just a minor thing, we did some UX optimization regarding the name of the sheet. You can see that, for example, here I have the main sheet, and the main sheet basically has the same name as the name of the artifact itself. And this is done on purpose because for 95–99% of documents, you usually don't really want to have specific name for the main sheet. Most documents have just one sheet. So if the name of the sheet is left empty, then it automatically takes the name of the document. And in that case, we, in this menu, just say main sheet, because it wouldn't really look good if we would have three same names just next to each other, always within the with the different styles. Another point which you made was about navigator color schemes. This is a bug which we already know about, and the team of U5 Plus4U5 will fix this. That the colors are quite different from the original colors which were used in the previous Plus4U5 generation. It will be fixed, and the colors will not be exactly the same, because now we are using standard material design palette, which was defined by GDS in detail, but they will be closer to the original one. So don't worry. We will make it more, let's say, familiar as you know it from the previous generation. For what we know is that printing with usage of new layout will have to improve as well, especially for some contracts which you need to print. We will make sure that the unnecessary parts of the layout will not be printed. Regarding the search bar, that is like a whole different topic. The only thing I can say is that we count with some search bars for the future, which will be used for searching either within the context of the unit or the territory or the document itself. But we received a few requests from representatives, especially from Unicorn Systems, which complained that the previous docket had some search bar within it, but there was actually no search bar by like a native feature of UDocket. It is just a special plugin which you developed. So if you want to keep developing custom plugins, well, then you will need to develop another plugin for the new layout. Although I would not advise to do that, and instead describe what you need, and if it would make sense for the concepts of the new layout, we may think about it and maybe add it as a general feature. And of course, some minor bugs which were found, I can assure you that they will be fixed very, very soon. And finally, just a few mentioning of future plans, but I believe that Bobesh and his team will have some future open session about it as well, because these concepts are now currently in development and in progress between the UX team, territory team, U5 team. So as you can see, there is quite a few units and teams involved, and the things they are now thinking about and preparing are improvements of navigation, because everybody does realize that the navigation across the whole ecosystem of Plus4U service and across the territories, etc., is not optimal. And one of these things will be enabling of context and personal navigation across all of our applications. So once we will have the new layout, when there will be this feature released, it will automatically be available in all of our applications, and the applications will not need to do anything to achieve this behavior. Also, the Plus4U navigator will be redesigned as well, so it will be in compliance with the context and personal navigation. And as I said, the searching functionality is also a very specific topic which we will be developing in the future. So that's basically all to the introduction to the concepts and to the basic live demo. You can all try it by yourself just by using Docket in any business or my territory. And if you have any feedback or any ideas, feel free to send it to us through the FLS button. So thank you from my side. And now we're going to move to the, let's say, more advanced part, where Lukáš Sikora will show you how to achieve the same final results of the layout just as UDocket has.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. I will share my screen. Hope you see what I'm sharing. So, in order to integrate the new Plus4U5 layout, there are a few things that needs to be done, both on the human interface side and on the server side. The human interface side is quite bigger, or the requirements are quite bigger than on the server side. So let's start with the human interface. It's necessary to have a new Plus4U5 generation 2 library in your dependencies in your client-side application. Also, there needs to be used these two components. It's SPA provider and SPA. And in order to use Plus4U5 hooks, all your components which will be using those hooks needs to be written as a functional ones, because you can't use hooks in class components. And on the server side, there are basically just two requirements, or you need to add new commands, and one of them is sys up workspace load, and another one is UUOBC load. And in our case, we have a document, because this command is constructed by entity / UOBC load. So for each entity which your application is using, you will have one of this command. Okay, so let's dive into the human interface. At the top, there is a link to the Plus4U5 guideline. So if you would like to integrate this interface or this layout, you can start here. But basically, all of this information are somehow in this how-to or in this guideline. But I suggest to definitely look there, because on each of component from Plus4U5, you will find there nice examples, and that's how we made it. We took those examples and try to transform them to solve our problems, or to make it the way we need it. So you can find a link here. As I said, that you need to add some dependencies to your application, and one of them is the Plus4U5 generation 2, and another is the U5 generation 5. Which we are using in those versions, but as Adam said, the new major is coming, so it won't be so long on the zero major. And when we started to integrate this new layout, first of all, we went through all our components. And because we thought that we just rewrite to functional ones only some of them, because Dockit was or is still a bigger application. There were about I think 50-60 components, so we didn't want to rewrite something which wasn't necessary, but we ended up in a way that we said that let's rewrite it all, because actually it's easier to work with functional components, especially in an application like Dockit, because we were using or we are still using many contexts, and in a class component, when you use context, you use it as a component. So you have some provider, you fill the provider with some data, and when you want to access those data, you need to create a consumer from this provider. And so in a functional view, you just use hook, use context, and you have the data right away ready to use. And in the older case, we need to make some component which wraps the consumer and puts those data via props to another component, and it wasn't really as elegant as it right now. So we rewrite all of our components, and I think that the client side of Dockit application got even thinner. We removed some components, and I think it's now even more readable. I'm not saying that there are or there is no space for optimization. It still is, but it's working now, and I think that it looks good. So this was one of requirement, functional components. Another one was those two components, this SPA provider and SPA. So let's take a look on a high-level view of our application. So on the top level, we have SPA, which basically wraps the whole application. And in this component, we use the SPA provider. In our case, we fill it with those props, initial language list, which is list of languages of the application, and on up workspace load. And this property is for specifying a call, which should be call to gain data about the workspace of your application. And that's it. There's nothing else in our case, just those two props. And between the SPA provider and the SPA, there is a layer of our providers that we use in Dockit. And I would like to mention some of them. For example, our app provider, it's our top level context, which we use across the whole application. And for example, it's being used for dynamically changing the top menu in Dockit application. If I can show it here, it's this road bar. Or it provides to every component in our application interfaces, for example, to show some modal, to show some error, and so on and so on. So we use it really for changing the structure of some components. Another provider is a document provider. And we use it here as a wrapper of use row data hook, because all of our roads are, or the roads that working with document are or needs identification of the document, and with this hook you load the document itself, like the object in the database. And we wrap it because we add some handlers and some interface, which we provide in a deeper levels or in a components which are nested in these providers. And last one, we have the attachment and activities provider. And we added this just to be able to inform users about number of or count of activities and attachments to the current document, as you can see right here. And so this is just for loading data to show these two numbers. And we didn't want to add it to some existing provider because we don't want to change it, or we don't want to make changes in other providers so often, like in this one or the attachment. So this is our layer of providers, and then there's a SPA component from the Plus4U5, and in our case we don't fill any props here. It handles the whole structure of the SPA. And what is more interesting is our page component, which consists of binary provider. Binary provider is here because we specify here all use cases for manipulation or for working with binary files in Dockit application. This can be done in a different way, and you can specify all of the use cases right here in SPA provider. We choose this way because we needed additional parameter to add to all of those commands, and the parameter is available after getting data from the document provider. It's the current solution. It couldn't be changed. Even right now, we stay on this, but as I said, there's still some space for optimization, so this could be one of it. And there is the road bar. The road bar is on this level, and we put data to this road bar from our application provider. Because on some roads you want to have different actions or different buttons in your road bar than in another. So we need to change it dynamically with the context, because we don't know what should be there until the data from the road are loaded. So this is our page component. And on this level, the last component is the Plus4U5 router, in which all of the roads are being rendered. So this is the high-level view on the SPA structure. So let's take a look on the source code. So this is our SPA component. And in a render method, you can see the SPA provider, those two props with languages, and the call for loading the workspace. And this is the new command that needs to be in every application. And then the whole layer of providers, as I mentioned. And what I would like to show here is the router, where we fill it the roadmap with this object. And we have it in a separate file for a better readability. And in this file, you can see all roads that are in Dockit. And you can also see here that there is not just some component which should be rendered when you go to a specific road, but there's some function which wraps this. And this is necessary, and I will show you this in a diagram why we do that. So when we talk about routes, it's another new thing that comes with a new generation of Plus4U5, and the working with road is a little bit different than it was before, because in older applications, when you want to use some component as a road, you add some road mixin. Yeah, road mix or mixins are dead finally. So now when you want to use some component as a road, you need to wrap it with a high order component with road, which is from the Plus4U5 generation 2 library. And this function, or this high order component, do all the magic for you. But we find out that if we wrap all of our components with this high order function, it causes sometimes loading more often than it was necessary. So we wrap this function with our own high order functions and components, so we can handle some stuff in a common component, and we do not need to do it in all of our road components. So let's take a look on another big picture. So this is the road point of view. So we have the Plus4U5 router, and then we have our high order function with road wrapper, which wraps all components which are inserted to it with the road wrapper component. And this wrapper includes the with road from the Plus4U5. So it's common for all of our routes in the which are connected with a document or even with a sheet are using this component. You can see that there is another branch because it can be or there can be situation that you don't have the document ID, and to prevent some errors. So in this level, it's being handled that when you don't have any document, so you can't access to data of some specific document, we have another higher order component with docket, which just needs well, it needs less data than the other wrappers. So when we wrap those components with this high order function, it's then being decided if it's a document or it's only document route or it's a sheet route. And because not in every case you need on some routes data about sheet, and so it wasn't necessary to have those data all the time for all routes. So when we have only a document route, for example, when we setting some attributes to document or making a copy of a document, we are in this way, and the data for the documents are getting from the document context. And we'll take a look in a code for this, because it could be maybe it will be easier to understand. And when we are talking about the sheet routes, so it's basically when you open some sheet, that's one of the routes which is being wrapped by this sheet route wrapper, using most of the same hooks or same data, but it takes data from the or it loads data of the sheet, and then it uses sheet context. In this case, there is a sheet context provider, which or where the data of the sheet are being passed. So in all routes or for all components in the sheet routes, they can access data of the sheet from the sheet context consumer. Okay, so I can go to the documentation for the with route wrapper. So this is the high order function or high order component. And just if we take a quick look on the parameters, there are two. One of them is the route itself, which should be loaded. And another is that we specify if it is a document or sheet route. That's because there were the two options if it should be wrapped by the document route wrapper or the sheet route wrapper. And if we take a look on the sheet route wrapper, for example, so you can see here all the hooks that are being used. Here is the use data object, which loads the sheet, and those data are being passed to the sheet context provider, where all of the children can access those data. And so this is the diagram of the structure of this component, and you can see here all of the routes that's being actually wrapped by this sheet route wrapper. So each of these components doesn't need to handle this logic which is being solved here for all of them. Okay, sorry. Okay, so this is the with road wrapper. So I'm back in the code in the roadmap. So we can see this is the high order component which wraps it. And if we take a look on it, there are those two parameters and our road wrapper. And then based on the type, we decide if we want to wrap it with a document road wrapper or the sheet road wrapper. And here you can see the case when there is no document ID. So the homepage with the homepage of the kit will be rendered. So when we take a look on a road wrapper, you can see that it's being created with the with road high order component from the Plus4U5. So all of the components which are being wrapped by this can be used as roads, and there aren't really much logic here because it just wraps it, and the with road function has two parameters. One of it is the component, and another is the object with parameters. And here you can specify what what command and what U app type this road is about, or which app type it's connected to. So in our case, we have only one app type. It's the document, and all those roads needs data of this document. But when we, or if we wrap all of the components with just this use road, and not, or we won't do it in this way that we created our own wrapper, it will be loading on every road. So, and we didn't want that. So that's why the road wrapper, and that's why we wrap the use road in this way. And on the onload function, you specify the call that should be, or the command that should be called, and then in the use road data hook, you can access this data. And that's the case when we use the document context, which wraps or which use the use row data hook. And when we take a look on the sheet road wrapper, so you can see in the render that the children of which are being wrapped by this are wrapped by the provider, the sheet context provider, which is being loaded from the use data object here. Yeah, so we load the sheet and we put it in the provider. And in this place, we also handle some changes in the app context, and so we add more handlers, and we add some information about the current sheet, and like sorry, I said it in a bad way. We add the more specific data of the document, like a sheet list, and add handlers for manipulating the or changing the sheet. And here we use our helper the document top generator, which creates or it constructs the whole top level and change the buttons and everything else based on some logic and permissions. Take a look again on the kit, so you can see that, for example, here I'm on the main sheet, and this button is disabled. And if I go to another, you see that it's no longer disabled, and I can set this sheet as a main. And you can see that if I'm going from one sheet to another, nothing else is being loaded or rendered, just the content of the sheet. And even when I go to some different route, for example, in a sheet copy, just this row change, nothing else loaded, and the document itself, it wasn't necessary to load it again, because we have all those data in our context and we just read it from the context. Yeah, so when I get back to the sheet, you see that it's right away. Okay, so this was about the client side, or the human interface, and we can take a quick look on the server side. And I would like to show you the workspace load command. This command, or the most important thing here, is the structure of the DTO out of this command, because it's been designed by the UApp server, and so we get this structure, and or we fulfill this structure, to be more precise. So this command needs to return data about the docket itself, about the AVIT object in the data attribute, and another data in this DTO out must be in this structure, and all of this data you can get from the app server, or I mean from the app server library, because it has helpers or interface to get all this data. So I can show you this in code, where we get all the data for the load workspace command. And one of them is from the authorization result. Then you can see that we are loading the docket. ACID data and AVIT data are from the USUPAP instance class from the UApp server library, just with the method get, and also the UApp workspace. It's also being, or the data about the workspace you can get with this method. Just you need to specify what AVIT you are looking for. Another attribute is the artifact, which is being loaded from the business territory, and we are loading it with our helper to get this data of the artifact, and then we construct the whole DTO out. Here's important thing, that when you are loading the artifact, the AVSC, those parameters are necessary. You need to load context and the load visual identification. And thanks to this, you can see it here. The top will have different colors, different icons based on the business territory. So this is really important. And then you create the whole structure. So you can see the data. We add the docket object. To the sys data, we fill it with the authorization result, and there is also a related objects map, which should contains all services or any other links which are necessary for this application. And at last, there are the AV data, ACID data, and the territory data, which is the artifact, the AVSC. So I think that this is all from me. You can find link to this guideline in this open session. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and me or Adam will try to answer to them. So thank you for your attention, and we are going back to the studio. Oh, I'll just stop sharing. Okay.
Okay, so I can't see any questions on YouTube or in the discussion below the video in today's open session document. So thank you all for your attention, and also big thanks to everybody who was involved in the whole new layout key task, because you only saw me and Lukáš today, but there was a huge effort by the Product Hub board, UX team, U5 team, Docket team, Territory team, Big Design, and many other teams and people. So thank you everybody, and thank you for watching today's open session, and see you some next time.